I learned years ago that I am not a 24/7 hustle and grind kind of gal. It's just too much pressure, all that hustling. Um, what I've learned is that all that pressure to be going, 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 quick, 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 quick decisions, quick action, it actually flips on me and it actually shuts me down and I get overwhelmed. It's something I learned several decades ago. And I've been looking for, like, okay, well, so what do I do if I'm not a hustle and grind kind of gal? Then what do I do? So I've learned and really cultivated this idea of following my energy. And so I follow my energy in my business. And that might sound a little woo, a little, what? How do you do that? How do you really trust that? So I'm guessing you have lots of questions. So that's why I'm going to share on this episode how I use the idea and the practice of following my energy in my business and in my life so that I can create an amazing six-figure business, a beautiful life, doing the soul work that I love, helping lots of people around the world, and it really supports the life that I love. So stay tuned because I'm going to tell you more about, the real deal, the real story behind this. So hello and welcome. I am so glad that you are here for this next episode of Joyful Business TV. I'm Laura West, host of your show. I'm the CEO and founder of Joyful Business, the Center for Joyful Business, and I'm also an intuitive success coach. So for over 20 years, I have been helping coaches, consultants, conscious business owners of all types, people who want to do their soul work. I have been helping them make a difference by getting out of their own way and finding their authentic marketing style and finding their voice and being able to put their work out in a way that feels really good. They don't feel like they're selling their soul with soul-crushing marketing. So they can make really great money and create this environment where they flourish inside and out. Very congruent, all about the alignment. All right, so today we're going to talk about, speaking of alignment, we're going to talk about how to grow your business by following your energy. This is truly how I've created a successful six-figure plus business, sharing my soul work that supports a life that I absolutely love. I just love all the things in my life on most days, right? Nothing's perfect. But so let's talk about, what do I mean about follow the energy? Some of you might know exactly what I'm talking about. And you're like, oh yeah, I do this. But you might wonder, can I really trust this? And some of you might be, what is she talking about? But you're really curious because you're interested in an alternative to this, hustle, grind, got to be the boss man, boss woman kind of thing. So what does that mean? So first of all, energy, it's really different for everyone. We are all connected and we are all full of vibrational energy and we are emitting energy vibrations all of the time. Everything around us is, actually. That's a whole nother metaphysical course we can talk about. But what happens is, if you just think about it for like when you walk into a room, right? There's something more going on than just your mind, right? When you walk into a room and thinking about what to talk about, right? You can pick up the energy in the room, right? Everybody emits these energies. You can tell if something weird just happened, right? You can tell if people are scared or afraid. You can tell if people are happy and jubilant, right? Sometimes, you can tell because they're laughing, right? But sometimes there's signals that are happening that aren't being communicated necessarily that are really obvious. So when you're using your energy as a guide, right? The more you practice this, the easier it will get, and the more you'll trust it. But when you start using energy as a guide, you want to use your body as a receiver. So your body has all these different ways that you can receive information. And so when I go through this list, think for a moment, how is your body an instrument? And what instruments are really fine-tuned for you, right? So for some people, it's your mind, right? The thoughts come in. Sometimes you don't even know where the thoughts come from, right? But these thoughts come in. I was talking to somebody last night and he said, I see numbers, right? I see numbers. I just see. And, so he gets these kind of visual clues that might come up in his mind, or he was actually pointing out there that it might come up in his awareness, right? Sometimes it comes up truly in the rest of your physical body, right? You might feel a heart expansion when you're talking to somebody, or an idea comes up to you. And sometimes these ideas just come to you and they, all of a sudden your mind just gets super active, right? And all of a sudden it becomes alive. Maybe you see patterns, right? Some people feel it. I'm a queen feeler. I feel things with my body. I can feel it. I can feel the energy. I feel constriction. I feel expansion. And so I use that constriction, expansion as a barometer. It's a tool for me of, okay, do I want to go towards something? Do I want to be more cautious and pull back? Am I, and the more you use it, you start distinguishing between when is it fear and when is it true information that's being communicated. Sometimes you might have like a knowing, right? You just know the answers, right? So you want to really look at how do you amp up that awareness of how the energy runs through you, excuse me, and how do you get the messages? How do you connect to other people, to nature, to other things happening in the world, in the greater universe, to source, to God, to your guides? Like, how does that all speak to you? Because we're all connected. All of that is connected. We're co-creating constantly with the energies that are in the world. And so you want to really get clear about, what is that like? So I know for physical energy, some people get sensations. They might get a tightening in their gut. Maybe their heart closes down or their throat closes up. Some people, their third eye, like this information coming from seemingly nowhere, they just know, really opens up or might close down. You might get goosebumps. Sometimes I'll be talking to people and we'll have an awareness, especially like clients, and we'll get this huge aha, and they'll say, oh, I just got goosebumps, right? That's how it shows up through our skin, right? And for me, I know when I'm reading something or I'm journaling and ideas are starting to come together and I see the patterns and the ideas start flowing in, I get this heart expansion, and then my shoulders get like the kind of like a champagne fountain are happening, and like I get all this energy in my shoulders, and it's almost like I can't not move, right? And so when I've been at my creative cafe time, that'll happen a lot. I'll read something inspirational, I'll start journaling about it, mind mapping, brainstorming ideas, and then all of a sudden it's like, I can't sit here any longer. I have to get up and go do something. And so that's how it shows up over and over for me. Sometimes creative ideas and messages come to you through like words and phrases that you see over and over again. You might see it, and I've really cultivated this because I do believe that the universe works in all sorts of creative ways. I think the universe has a sense of humor, and that it shows up in all sorts of ways. So in the spring, I went to a retreat that was all about opening up and living in this world of enchantment. Well, I tell you, there was stuff coming up about enchantment for 2 weeks solidly after I came back from this retreat. And even like I was reading a novel at night, and in the novel, this woman was in Morocco back in the 40s, and she went into this vintage antique shop, found a champagne bucket. In the champagne bucket she was imagining had this Perrier Jouet, this particular champagne that's been famous over the years. And that was one of my favorite things back in the 90s. I used to see it in movies, Perrier Jouet. And so I have a poster of Perrier Jouet. And so I went online. I thought, I wonder what they're up to these days. And I expected to see this website of, just typical champagne kind of beautiful lifestyle shots. And instead, they had embraced this mission of they want to bring enchantment to your day, every day. And they had these cool people, these creative people, architecture, a chef, a designer, a writer, and they were all in charge of creating these enchantment experiences for Perrier Jouet and their events. I mean, like, how extraordinary is that, right? You can choose to ignore those, or you can choose to embrace and say, you know what, there's something going on here. So I keep following that has gotten me to follow the energy of enchantment over and over again. So again, there's a words, words, phrases, things that might come up, things that you see over and over again. You start following a bit of a rabbit trail, but yet when you truly let yourself believe and lean into that, oh my gosh, there's magic and messages everywhere. For me, it gets me so excited that it amps up my energy. So if nothing else, it gets me excited, inspired. And the next thing I go do in my business or how I show up in my life, my energy is more amped up. Um, Lots of times there's messages there, that I feel like I just got a message. This is like 6 months later from a woman that I went on a trip with. And she said, Laura, you helped me see the world through the eyes of enchantment. And that was a gift to be able to receive that message from her and to see my impact. So of course I'm interested in all things enchantment, right? And yeah, there's so much more I could say about that. So other ways that it might show up, like you might feel in your body, again, using your body as a receiver or an instrument, you might feel flow, right? You might actually feel the flow moving through you. You might feel a pull, like a pull towards something, right? And maybe you're not even sure why. It might show up in this emotionally with, like you might experience, sometimes you experience outright excitement. You just see a flash of an idea or an email or a social media post or a book, and you just, you light up, and it's so obvious that there's some excitement and interest. Sometimes you experience it as maybe a yearning or a calling. Again, you're almost being pulled emotionally towards something in a certain direction. And maybe it's super clear, and sometimes it might be, lots of times yearnings, callings are more this vague sense of something more, like you want something more. And so that's a real invitation to get curious and start following the energy even more, just to be curious and open to see where it's going to lead you. Sometimes these messages, where the energy is leading you, it's really quiet, like a whisper. That's how they start out. The universe doesn't, when you're listening to the voices in your head, lots of times the universe, source, God is talking to you, your guides are talking to you in whispers. Sometimes they'll give you shouts. If you don't listen to the whisper, they'll give you shouts. But lots of times you can distinguish the voices that show up in your head, right? Because we all have these voices that are yapping all the time, right? The voices that are negative and critical, those are not the voices. Okay, that's not the voices we're talking about. That's your negative ego. That's a whole nother show. That's another piece of content we'll talk about. But it's these compassionate whispers that are saying, hey, you, go there, pay attention over here. Or pay attention to this yearning. It's actually important. Or this idea really matters. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Sometimes it will show up as a shout, right? If you're not listening. So for a long time, I've been in business for about 22 years. For a long time, I had these whispers that would say, because I'm a business coach, right? But I would get these whispers that would say, yeah, but you're also a healer. You're a healer. And so it was kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of a healer. I sort of embraced it. And then at dinner one night a couple years ago, I was at dinner with these friends of mine, this couple, and my friend Irv slammed his hand down on the table, startling everybody. And he's like, when are we all going to get it? Laura, you are a healer. Capital H, healer. It literally was a slam and a shout. It was a literal wake-up call to embrace that part of my coaching in that deeper way is that I heal people. I heal them so that they can put themselves out in the world and get their soul work out in the world, right? That is part of what I do. And so that was a big wake-up call, that shout, to embrace my medicine, right? My unique way of delivering medicine, to that it's not only business, but it's also this deeper healing work that allows people to be more conscious and creative and sustainable. So, your shout might come in different ways. There's lots of different ways that that can show up. A lot of times it'll show up through wake-up calls, right? Maybe a relationship falls apart that wasn't really in your highest good, right? Maybe there's a health scare or a crisis that has you wake up and say, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? Maybe there's a pandemic that wakes the whole world up to say, what's really important? And by God, I want to follow my joy. So I'm hearing that from everybody over and over again. This real talk about a yearning and a deep desire is, oh my gosh, I need to have some joy in my life because I can't keep going through life, in that kind of if we're post pandemic, if that's possible, um, where you feel that pressure and like life was smaller. Something's got to shift, right? And so you might feel that call. Maybe something has shifted in your circumstances, like your kids have gone off to college or got married, and you've got the empty nest, and you might feel loneliness because of that, or you might feel the sudden freedom. Both of those are pointing to opportunities, right, for you to say, what's next? Where's your joy? How can you start creating a life for yourself that's maybe not all wrapped up into your kids? That's another example. So what I know too is that the more you notice and the energy, the more you start, noticing how it comes into your body, noticing where those messages are. I like to track it and write it down. To me, that makes it really obvious. And so I'll keep a journal at different times that I'll carry around with me that is just tracking the messages, the signals, where's the energy flowing. And I'll just put things in there, that there was a month where I kept getting messages about Alice in Wonderland, right? That kind of seems like, what does that have to do with my business, right? But you just start trusting it and playing with it. You have to have a sense of play with it. And then things started happening, and I kept seeing all these messages. I see things about rabbits and following the rabbit trail, and things that were magical. Talk about enchantment, things were magical. Things were pointing in that direction. So and I would just write it down in my journal. And then the more you write it down, track it, pay attention to it, the more you'll start seeing things and they'll start showing up consistently. You'll start recognizing what's happening. And then the more you'll start trusting it, because that's a really big part of this, is that you got to build up the practice of awareness and the practice of trusting it. And the more you do that, the clearer, the more frequent the messages will get, and you can really, really have a deep trust in it. So one way that I get messages is literally through synchronicities, signals, repetitive clues, like some of the things I've been talking about. But one story I'll share with you is this is about opening up my wild creative heart. So I took a year-long program a couple years ago that was about finding your destiny and getting in alignment and claiming your destiny. And my destiny is to share my wild creative heart. And so this year I've been playing with that. I've been going to, I went to Costa Rica, I went to some, that's been in my business, opening my heart in the way that I speak and write and share. You've seen my TV show, this new website. It's a way of opening my heart to having a relationship in my life, feeling like I'm pulling away those protective barriers and that I'm ready for that. And so I was working with a coach on a particular Saturday, and this whole message came up about distinguishing between having a barrier around my heart to protect it and just having strong boundaries, but being able to open my heart with strong boundaries and really trust that. So that was on a Saturday. Sunday morning, I get an email where somebody was sharing, a friend of hers was having a retreat in Guatemala. Never thought about going to Guatemala, but it was all about opening up your wild heart, right? Like, how on target could that be? So I followed the rabbit trail, went to her website, started looking at it, and it spoke to me, right? It spoke to me. It was going to be on the shores of Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, which is one of the top 20 most beautiful lakes in the world, which I never knew until I looked at this. And so then I reached out to my retreat travel buddy. We go to a lot of retreats together, and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this Guatemala thing? We couldn't possibly do that. We already went to Costa Rica this year. This would be crazy, right? She was like, well, I would if you would. And I kept checking in, and it was like, I was really pulled. I felt like there was something here. that was going to help me on my path to opening my wild heart, down in Guatemala. And so we said yes. And I mean, in those places that I went, I experienced profound beauty, connection, abundance, definitely heart wide opening messages. And I also had the most amazing healing experience that was so unusual, so intense, gosh, it was just like mind blowing, amazing, and all about readying myself to be able to open up my heart even more. So you never know where these things are going to lead you, and sometimes you might wonder, why am I doing this, right? Sometimes it's really obvious. You can see the connections, like what I just said. And sometimes you're like, why am I doing this? I don't really understand. But there's usually a gift or an opportunity, an experience, a person that you need to meet, or, that you need to experience, that's going to help you in your growth. It's going to help you some way in your life or in your business. I remember decades ago when I went to a conference and a week-long workshop in Las Vegas. And it was with a well-known personal growth expert. And yeah, I liked him on the phone. Back then it was teleseminars, and I liked what I was hearing, which is why I signed up. And in this event, I absolutely hated it. I just hated it. Every day I questioned, why am I here? Why don't I just get on a plane and go home? Because I don't like this guy. I don't like how, to me, it felt unsafe, and it was just the things he was asking us to do. There was so many questions and so much. I didn't understand it, and I didn't agree. I understood it, actually. I just didn't agree with his approach. And again, I kept calling home. I'm like, why am I here? Why am I here? And I'll stay one more day. I'll stay one more day. And then by the end, I got this huge gift of a message that was, oh, this is a super testosterone masculine approach to helping people get breakthroughs. This is not my style. I'm about feminine creative power. I'm about following the energy. And it reinforced, this is a different approach. Either one is not right or wrong, but you know what? This more feminine creative approach is more right for me. It was an unexpected message, not what I thought I was going there to get, but I got my breakthrough. It just happened in a different way, right? That's by following the energy, and even when you're not quite sure why you're there. Gosh, I have so many different examples of where I've followed the energy that I'd love to share. There was one that I guess it was back kind of like 2012 or so. And I was really exhausted. I'd gone through a really hard time in my marriage. It was on the rocks. We went through that recession. It changed everything about my business. Everybody went online. It got more kind of just saturated with a lot of coaches. Everybody was being a coach who got laid off. And I can remember sitting on the deck, sitting at a table with this teak table out back. And I was sitting there and I was journaling, and I was like asking the universe, like, what do I need to do next? What do I need to offer next? And I heard the message, people just want support in getting their projects done. They just want to get stuff done, and they want to be a little more creative about it. And in that moment, I birthed the 30-day passion project. And so that idea wasn't there the morning before, right? It was like I connected in, I asked the universe, I surrendered, just asking and then listening to where's the energy going. And I just kept writing this out. Next thing you know, I created this 30-day program that I ended up doing, I think it was 13 times. So I helped birth over 1,000 passion projects with all of these programs, probably over 1,500 passion projects all around the world, all different sizes, from people creating their coffee table books to their real books to totally redoing their offices to creating programs and products and Oracle decks and all sorts of things that they did. And again, who knew it was going to be something that I would do for several years after that. And I still bring that idea of creating passion projects into my coaching all the time. So you never know when you follow the energy in your life and your business where it's going to happen. Now, I do want to say that just because you're following the energy, you still want to periodically create a vision. You want to connect to your vision. Um, it used to be that my visions were really clear. They were very, I want to write the book. I want to be on the stage. I want to make X number of dollars, very, very specific. And now it feels like the world's changing so fast. Things are changing so much. Um, and maybe I have a little more trust in the future as well, as crazy as it might sound to say that. Um, but my vision is more about who do I want to be in the world. And yes, it's fun to have the things and the accomplishments. Um, but I know that my vision really is about who do I want to be? What is the impact that I want to have? How do I want to be giving my gifts? From that vision, I still make plans. I do my 90-day plans. It's like, all right, here's what I see. I do my, 6-month plans. I start mapping things out for next year. I do those, but it's not about being so rigidly tied to those. It's I make the plans and then I follow the energy. And following the energy means slowing down, listening, connecting, knowing how it comes to you. And here's the key. You got to take action. You have to take action on the plans. It's not about massive, crazy, chaotic action, right? It's about aligned, inspired action. Sometimes it is hard. Sometimes it is scary because you're growing, right? You're expanding. So you haven't done it before. So of course there's going to be some fear, right? I call it joy fear. There's excitement and you're excited to do it and you're, but I'm not quite sure. Or you're downright worried about it or feel anxious about it. That's the joy fear. That's natural, right? Even when you're following the energy, it's going to be natural. But that's where you get support, right? That's where you have your mastermind, you have a coach who can support you through walking through the joy fear. All right. I'll tell you one more story about this. It's related to joy fear. So I was in corporate. I was head of corporate marketing, had a position in corporate marketing for years in the shopping center industry. And I was leaving to start my own business as a coach. I had hired a career coach, wanted to start and I loved what she did after a couple years and then realized that's what I want to do next. So I had told everybody in my corporate office in Atlanta that I was going to be leaving, starting my career as a coach. And then I got this flash, right? I got a flash that said, oh, go contact this woman in Denver who worked for our company and she did training within the company. And I just had this she would be really excited to hear that I'm going to be a coach. I think she'd be really interested in this because she's very interested in personal growth and training and things like that. And so I called her, and what happened was she had a budget for teaching coaching skills. That was like the next thing in 2 months. That was going to be the next thing. She wanted to teach 50 managers around the country how to use coaching skills. And she didn't have anybody to teach it. And so she said, can I pay for your coach training, your certification? Just give me a budget. Here's my budget. Spend the whole thing and I'll pay you, the $10,000. I'll pay it to you so you can come in and do this program for us. I was already on the path, right? But talk about getting a wink from the universe. It wasn't even a wink. It was like a full on, yes, go in that direction, Laura. Felt like the universe was saying, go here, go here. People want this. So again, you want to follow those urges, those yearnings, following the energy. So I could share so many stories about this, but this is what I do day in and day out. I do practices that help me get grounded, get connected, open up my energy, get crap out of the way because there's always stuff in the way. I have those tools for getting stuff out of the way. I've got my coaches, I've got my healers that I work with to help me get the energy out of the way, have the clean energy so it's flowing. So then I can really be connected and I can truly follow the energy. And that's what I do each and every day to grow my business. And then of course I come back to the plan, see what the energy, how that marries with the plan, and then I take action. So simplified version, but I look forward to sharing more about this. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. All right, thank you so much for being here today. I am so glad you are here. If you want more information, please go over to joyfulbusiness.com and I will look forward to talking with you on the next episode. All right, take care. Thank you for watching this episode of Joyful Business TV. I want to invite you to get more creative strategies and support for growing your business. You can start right now by activating your abundance mindset with a really powerful creative visualization that will help you get into the universal abundance current, one of my favorite things to do. And you'll also get a companion 7-day journal that will help you create a daily habit of co-creating with the universe. These are two powerful resources that you can get started right now to help grow your business and activate that abundant mindset. You just go over to activateabundancegift.com.